The FIFA World Cup is set to kick off on 20th November 2022 in Qatar. The entire world's eyes will be on Qatar as the world's single largest sporting event will kick off in the Middle East for the first time. Superstars from all over the world, from 32 teams, will play 64 games in 28 days for one big glory. But this World Cup is different from the previous ones. It is a little unique, but mostly controversial. Here's a look at the reality of the 2022 World Cup. It all began in Zurich 2010, where the announcement for the 2022 World Cup host was to be made. The World Cup went to Qatar and left everyone shocked, primarily because Qatar had no such history in the sport. The Qatar World Cup is facing serious allegations on incidences of bribery. Julio Grondona, senior vice president of FIFA until 2014, took a bribe of about $1 million to vote for Qatar. The witness of this statement was Alejandro Burzaco, who was assistant to the then senior vice president. Alejandro says the statement from Julio came when he was lying on his deathbed and said that Qatar still owed Julio the promised money. Apart from this, 16 of the 22 FIFA members that voted for Qatar were later charged for corruption. The 2022 Qatar World Cup boasts its venues that have huge money spent on them. The World Cup will be played across 8 venues, including the Lusail Stadium that will host the final, the Al Bayt Stadium that will host the opening match, the Ahmed bin Ali Stadium, which is home to Al Rayyan FC that James Rodriguez previously joined. Apart from this, the Al Janoub Stadium reflects the wind-filled sails of Qatar's traditional dhow boats. The venues also include a redesigned Khalifa International Stadium, the Education City Stadium. As the name suggests, the stadium is located amidst several world-class university campuses at Qatar's Education City. Lastly, we have the 974 Stadium that is made up of 974 shipping containers. Now, Qatar is a country made of just 2.8 million people. So, Qatar largely relies on foreign workforce, and according to Amnesty International, 1.7 million migrant workers make about 90% of the country's workforce. And this brings us towards the next topic. A large number of these migrant workers have their passports seized by their bosses and are unable to return to their homeland. The workers have to work in the worst conditions and are still owed salaries. There have been reports that more than 6,500 migrant workers have died ever since the World Cup was awarded to Qatar. According to the statistics from The Guardian, the deaths are 2,711 from India, 1,641 from Nepal, 1,018 from Bangladesh, 824 from Pakistan, and 557 from Sri Lanka. The German and Norwegian national teams protested against this by wearing shirts highlighting human rights. However, the Qatari government refuses the death claims, saying that only 37 deaths have been recorded and just 3 of them are work-related. Seems like a washed-up image considering Qatar doesn't count deaths from heart attacks or respiratory failures to be work-related, even though they are symptoms of heat stroke while doing hard labor in high temperature. Apart from this, Qatar's hostility towards the LGBTQ community cannot be neglected. Homosexuality is banned in Qatar and is also punishable by death penalty. This is what the Amir of Qatar said on the homosexuality issue.
Welcome in Doha. We do not stop anybody from coming to Doha with any different backgrounds, any different belief. Qatar is a very welcoming country, and the World Cup is a great opportunity for people from different parts of the world to come and experience our culture.
Sexuality and labor rights brings us to the next topic of Qatar's male guardianship system denies many key rights from a woman. The system denies women the authority to act as their child's primary guardian even when they are divorced and have legal custody. Qatari women rely on permission from their male guardian to study abroad, work in government jobs, and even until receiving some sort of reproductive health care. Qatar also has strict rules for alcohol consumption in public, but there was a compromise on this because of this major sponsor. Yes, Budweiser. Budweiser also has big footballing names such as Lionel Messi, Neymar Jr., and Raheem Sterling as their brand ambassadors. Since we've talked about sponsorship money, let's have a look at the budget of the 2022 World Cup. Qatar has spent nearly $220 billion for the World Cup. Let that amount sink in for a moment. $220 billion. To put it into perspective, the previous 4 World Cups, that is Russia 2018, Brazil 2014, South Africa 2010, and Germany 2006, had a combined budget of $34 billion. Now, is all of this money spent just for the stadiums? No. Generally, when such huge events like the World Cup are organized, it requires major infrastructural projects. Considering Qatar, this money was spent on projects like the Doha Metro that cost $36 billion. Lusail City, that will host the final, did not even exist during the World Cup bid. It is a pre-planned city completely made in 12 years with more than $45 billion spent just for the World Cup. $15 billion have been spent on construction of hotels for accommodation in the Pearl Islands. Such a huge amount spent still couldn't solve the accommodation issue and is leading to the hotels in Qatar are not affordable for most of the visiting fans. Also, locals are being forced to vacate their homes, so the landlords can jack up prices for the visiting fans. But when such issues are presented by the media, that's when the government enters. An example, Norwegian broadcasters Lokman Ghorbani and Halvor Eklund were arrested outside their hotel in Doha for exposing such abuses. The government keenly makes sure that the media stays quiet. The difference-making point in this event is Winter World Cup. The World Cup this year is not held in summer as it is generally held. Why? Because the temperatures in Qatar rise beyond 45 degrees Celsius in summer. Hence, the World Cup has been shifted to winter when the temperatures are comparatively cooler. The cooler temperatures in Qatar are still not much conducive for the European teams. Considering that 13 of the 32 World Cup teams are from Europe, playing in the hot and humid conditions of Qatar will be one heck of a ride for the European team. But here's the real concern with the World Cup schedule. The UEFA Champions League knockout rounds have been further delayed due to the World Cup schedule. It also has a major impact on the domestic leagues as well. The Spanish La Liga and Italy's Serie A will be extending their seasons until June rather than the expected schedule of April. Following the World Cup schedule, the English Premier League will be on hold for 6 weeks. Here's what Theo Zwanziger, the former head of German Football Federation, said concerning the issue. A change in playing schedule doesn't only affect the Bundesliga but continues affecting lower divisions due to the link with promotion and relegation. The game pyramid is in danger, and so is the unity of German football. This brings us to the last part of today's video. Now, the question arises whether to watch the World Cup or not. Because as enthusiasts of the sport, the fans expect to watch the games in splendid venues and not live graveyards. The motto of this video was to bring the reality of this World Cup in front of everyone, and by no means we have any agenda against the nation of Qatar. Also, if you're missing out on this World Cup, you also lose the chance to witness some of the greatest players fight for their crest for the last time, as this is probably the last World Cup for many big names like Cristiano Ronaldo, Lionel Messi, Neymar Jr., Karim Benzema, Luis Suarez, Luka Modric, Thiago Silva, Robert Lewandowski, Pepe, Thomas Muller, and Dani Alves. But nevertheless forget that thousands have suffered and few of them even died for someone else's sporting glory. It's high time we raise our voices to speak up and ensure that the beautiful game remains open for all. That's it for today's video. If you watched this far, do subscribe to our channel. It takes a lot of efforts to bring such videos to you. If you found this video valuable, please hit the like button. It's a huge motivation. Do leave your reviews in the comment section. We'll be pleased to go through them. See you in the next video. Thank you.